Hey, a good Saturday morning. Thanks for joining us. Time for our expert segments. And we are going to kick off the hour with Luis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group. Morning, Luis.
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Doing well. Hey, last Saturday about this time, I bet you were headed over to the fairgrounds in Monterey for the annual Jazz Festival.
I was. We had a great festival. I'm on the board of directors for the Jazz the Jazz Festival, and we had a great program starting Friday night with the Buena Vista Social Club that really rocked the house, and then Saturday we had Bobby McFerrin, who we remember from the Don't Worry, Be Happy days,
Right.
and he rocked the house. And then we finished off Sunday night with Diana Krall, and she's just such a great voice.
Oh,
I
she
mean,
is.
just
She's fabulous.
she just had a great performance, and we had great weather the entire weekend. A little rain Sunday afternoon, but
Or was it
that
Saturday
didn't.
afternoon was the
Or
rain?
Saturday afternoon, yeah, but that didn't deter anybody. And then we had tons of really interesting acts on the show floor. Like in the garden, we had this gal Davina and the Vagabonds.
Ooh.
Keep that name tucked away. You'll hear from her in the future. She's a star in the making.
Was she on the garden stage?
She was on the garden stage,
Okay.
yeah, and she was just fabulous.
Now, on the board, how much of the show do you actually get to watch and enjoy, or are you, as a board member, expected to be running around putting out fires?
You have to pick and choose. There's a certain amount of running around and fighting fires and talking to patrons and, discussing things, because most of the people that go to the jazz festival have been going for years. Fortunately, I met a bunch of new people this year that have been there for the first time and look forward to coming again. But there's such a huge loyal following, and those folks, they have some nice feedback when you talk to them about how this year compared to past years. So it's always great talking to them.
Now, is there truly a waiting list for people that want to buy a season's pass to the jazz festival?
There isn't. I don't know where that rumor got started. The arena, which is where all the main acts perform, has seating, and when you buy an arena package, the seating is determined by whether people renew from prior years.
Okay.
So there is some issues there in terms of people wanting to get front row seats, but those seats are already spoken for by folks that have been coming for 30 years. But there's plenty of good seats available, and every year some seats open up. So I encourage everybody next year when the festival lineup is announced, and if you're interested in coming, check out the website and come on out and visit with us.
And as a board member, do you have any input or do the board members have input as far as what acts they bring in?
We don't. I mean, that's all handled by Tim Jackson, who's our artistic director. Now, Tim will every year, for example, next month, we'll have a post-mortem on the event and talk about what worked, what didn't work, and how the acts, played to the crowd and what was popular, what wasn't popular. And that, to a certain extent, dictates to Tim what kind of things to look for in subsequent years. But a lot of it has to do with just availability of artists.
Let's go ahead and talk some technology. And speaking of technology, staying with the Jazz Festival for just a moment, how big is technology for the Jazz Festival these days? And how do you guys use it?
A lot of ways. It's becoming a bigger and bigger part of our not just the show itself, but what happens before the show. The website is being revamped to really make it more user friendly and make it more interactive. We have a Jazz Festival app that gets better every year. It was really popular this year because it lets you not only look at the schedule of the acts that we're playing, but also understand what the music is. Because sometimes when you come to the festival, there's going to be acts that you may not know anything about, and it's nice to be able to read something about them and even listen to some of their music through the app. During the festival itself, we have free Wi-Fi that's available to all the patrons, and we do live streaming of a couple of stages. Some of the acts, not the main acts, but some of the up-and-coming acts get live streamed over the internet on NPR as well as through the MJF website.
Very cool. Sounds like a really successful jazz festival, and I'm glad we could spend a couple minutes talking about that, because I know it's a big part of your life around this time of the year, and maybe it's a window into Luis Alvarez our listeners didn't know about. On to Blackberry news, because we were talking about that on Monday and how Blackberry is being acquired by a private firm. Their efforts to remake themselves with a brand new smartphone haven't exactly had the success I think that Blackberry would have liked to have seen, and the company's in big trouble. They announced that they were going to have to lay off a bunch more workers, and some of the reports we've seen in the trade press indicate that maybe this is curtains for Blackberry, or maybe they have a new way forward by kind of changing their direction once once again and becoming corporate and government oriented.
Well, that's where BlackBerry started. For those of us that have been in this industry a while, you forget that when BlackBerry started their business, they catered exclusively to large companies, government agencies, large organizations that wanted control over the devices that they provided their staff and their employees, as well as a secure way of communicating. That's why BlackBerry is the only method of email and secure communication that is endorsed by the U.S. government, because everything else kind of is way less secure. So BlackBerry had really cornered that market, and they were sitting fat, dumb, and happy. And then one of the things that happened was the introduction of the iPhone. I remember the first iPhone coming out, and within 4 or 5 months of the iPhone being out on the market, I was getting calls from some of our clients, corporate executives, saying, hey, I want my iPhone to be connected to the email system, which is unusual because usually in companies at that time, if you wanted your employees to get access to email or get access to any sort of corporate data on their smartphones, you would provide the phone. And BlackBerry was doing a great business doing that. But when the iPhone showed up, that changed the paradigm. And so you had the consumerization of smartphones and this whole BYOD, or bring your own device to work phenomenon, that meant that consumers were going out and buying smartphones that they liked and then connecting them to the corporate office. And the poor corporate IT guys had, they lost that battle as much as they were trying to fight it. The problem was that the executives were first on the scene, right? Because the senior guys were the ones buying the $600 phones saying, connect us to the network. And by then it was like, Katie, bar the door. It's all, everybody can do whatever they want to.
And it's too bad that they didn't see the BYOD, bring your own device trend happening, because we have that in all businesses. I mean, I use my laptop exclusively in the studio I work in because the computers, well, first off, we don't have a computer with the capability that my laptop has. And there's nothing in the budget. I'm sure this is typical of so many businesses. There isn't anything in the budget that is going to allow for the purchase of a new processor, a new computer that is going to give me the capability that I have in the laptop that I own. And so if I'm going to have any sort of productivity at work, I need to bring my own device, because if I were to sit around and wait for a cap expenditure for new computers, well, I'll be old and gray by the time that happens.
Yeah, and that's really what the market has done, is it's created this shift in the way that consumers now dominate the workplace as opposed to the workplace dictating to their employees. And BlackBerry tried to play in that arena. They released a lot of phones, they released a lot of gee whiz type stuff, trying to attract the consumers at the end users, and they weren't successful. But as we mentioned earlier in the week, they still have something like 72 million subscribers. And that 72 million subscribers paying monthly fees and accessing services, that provides a lot of cash flow. So I think that's what attracted the private equity company Fairfax Financial, and why they think that they can really turn it around.
Well, good luck to them. Now, another thing just to mention here quickly is a new test came out. I believe SquareTrade, a company that sells protection plans for phones, smartphones, reportedly shows that the two new iPhone models are not as durable when it comes to, they're more fragile than the iPhone 5, right? The 5C and the 5S are more fragile. And apparently they did a 5-foot drop to the floor or dropped in water. And apparently they didn't fare too well.
Yeah, that's something that always happens whenever you jigger the model. Not only did the cases change, they had those new colorful cases, and that meant that you had to change some of the ways that they're manufactured, but you also have more high-powered innards that may be a little bit more sensitive to shock and to water than older phones. So it'll be interesting to see if consumers complain more than just learn to live with it. They sold something like 9 million new iPhones over the weekend that they introduced it. So I think they have a very successful product launch on their hands.
All right. Well, Louis, it's always great to talk with you about technology, the Jazz Festival, the American Red Cross, anything else you're involved in. It's fun to get the details on that. And one of these days, we'll talk about the American Red Cross and your involvement with that organization.
Absolutely. I'd love to do that.
Okay. Louis Alvarez, CEO of the Alvarez Technology Group, visiting with us this Saturday morning. It's alvareztg.com. Louis, what's the toll-free number for the I-Team?
Give us a call at 866-78-I-TEAM. That's 866-784-8326.
Thanks, Louis.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome.